Hello, and welcome to the second Ingrained podcast. I'm still figuring all this out, and I don't really know if I should be looking at the camera. I don't know if I should be pretending to look out the window. Right now, it's just me, and I figured we could start these Ingrained podcasts with maybe just an update from me, because I seem to keep hearing that over and over from in different podcasts that I listen to. I always love hearing their updates. And so I guess I'll start there. Hand, first of all, because it's just going to be in all the videos, is I had an accident cutting open a box with scissors yesterday. And I literally took pretty much all of the flesh off of my thumb, and it's not pretty. It hurts like hell. And it seems inconvenient. I don't know, maybe it seems like I'm just whining about it and it doesn't hurt that much, but it hurts so bad. There's no skin on my thumb. Other updates outside of just me being clumsy. Grain was on this hiring journey for a hot second of hiring or rehiring, I guess I should say, for the PR and brand partnerships position. And we got so many amazing applications for that. But for the time being, we're putting that on a hold just because we are going into the busiest time of year for marketing agencies and just all small businesses, going through November and December with all of the holiday promos coming up. And so we are placing a hold on the hiring process for now. And we're going to pick it back up in the new year. And my plan is, because November and December are so crazy, I don't even have the time to bring people in and interview them the way that I want to be. And so we've reached out to all the people that have applied this far. And we said, we're going to place a hold on this. We are definitely hiring for this position in the new year. But I think I want to take some time in January to host interviews and host people in our office and really just get to know them and fill this role so well. It's such a hard thing to do when you have a small team. And we've somehow created just the best. I know you're not supposed to say culture when talking about your company, because apparently if you talk about culture, it means that you have bad culture. But we have great culture here. And I think it's evident. People can see it. We respect one another. We love one another genuinely. We encourage one another. There's not this competition among any of us. And we just thrive when we're together. We've had to have boundaries with that. We now work hybrid in the office and from home, because when we're together, we have the tendency to be chatty and we need to be heads down. So we've just kind of figured that out, and we really want somebody to come into this position and understand that kind of dynamic that we have and be able to fit right in. So that takes time. And anyways, if you've applied for that or you're interested in applying for that, feel free to email Lexi, Lexy @graincreative.co, with your resume and in a cover letter. An amazing cover letter always goes a long way. I now understand that. When I was applying for jobs in my past, I always hated the cover letter portion, but to give a really in-depth cover letter, it doesn't have to be long, just saying why you want to work for Grain, what you like about Grain, what resonates with you. It helps me see if you are a potential right fit for this position. So continue to send in your applications. We're keeping them in a file. We're just going to be reaching out to our first round of interviews in the new year. We're going into the holiday season, and really my goal is to ironically slow down, which is just not possible in the holiday season for anyone, but not in marketing. Absolutely not. So I actually am very grateful to be putting that hold on the hiring process, because we just need a minute to we have our clients who we just adore. We just want to make them happy. We're coming up with amazing content to promote their Cyber Monday, Black Friday, Giving Tuesday into the holidays. And we just want to focus on that. So that's where we're at. We're slowing down. I say that very loosely because I don't know how we could possibly slow down, but we're not putting extra things on our plate right now that we don't have to. Peyton, our director of marketing, is getting married in the December 2nd. So there's just so much going on, and we're just trying to balance it all. I say that as we launch this podcast, so we're also adding that to it. So that being said, it's been a chaotic week here, and I was going to have my husband Shane come on the podcast around the third or fourth episode, but I decided to bring him on earlier because, to be quite frank, Peyton is busy this weekend. So I was like, well, shoot. And we have to film these like off hours because there's just during like business hours, our phones are just blowing up with all of our clients and the work that we have to do. So I just basically rallied up my husband and moved our conversation up to the day. And honestly, we don't really know exactly what we're going to talk about. I know whenever he and I get talking about our businesses, the conversation flows, and it's always so encouraging that I thought it would be so great to have him on. He is oh my gosh, this is what me trying to explain what Shane does is it's a constant struggle. He does a million different things. He's definitely the definition of a Renaissance man. When I met him, he was in tech. He worked as a software engineer at Bridgestone. And he was doing his artist thing on the side in Nashville, songwriter. Around that same time, he was approached about an app that he had made that connects musicians and venues. And he started working on his app full time. He got investment for that. And he's just been, full steam ahead on that since 2020, which is crazy to think that was over 3 years ago. So he now is doing both of those things. He's doing software engineering for his app. He's product development. He's a founder. He is getting investment in his second round of investment for his app, and it's called Strumn, Strumn. And so proud of him on that. But he's also a songwriter. He does really well. He's basically, I don't know how to explain it. I'll let him talk about it, but he doesn't have like a pub deal, which is a big thing here in Nashville. He just does the songwriting by himself and with other writers. I'm gonna let him talk about it. I don't know how to talk about it as well. But I'm really proud of him for being able to make those connections and being such incredible writes just by himself. He also is a day trader. So he's super into the stock market. I think he can give all of us some very good financial wisdom. And he was working for a hedge fund, our friend's hedge fund for the last 3 years now too. So he's done a million different things. And we're in the process personally right now where we are looking for more stability. And he's going to come on and talk about his process and helping to provide that for us and his job search and how he's marrying his own entrepreneurship journey with finding that stability for us and what we hope is a growing family. So, or we're trying to grow our family. So without further ado, I would like to welcome my husband, Shane Sniteman, to the Ingrained podcast. Hello.
We're doing it
again. Welcome to Ingrained.
Thank you. Feel like I'm here a lot.
Yeah. So Shane, we've kind of called you out in posts where it's like you are our behind the scenes superhero, but at Grain, we call him the Grain husband.
Or Grain dad.
I think it's Grain. Well, maybe they call me Grain mom. So I guess to them, you're Grain dad. And to me, you're Grain husband.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, thank you for joining me. This does not come naturally to us. I'm sure it gets easier as we start talking about it. But, so I wanted to bring you on because really what got me thinking with this, and I started taking notes that I thought this would be a really good Ingrained episode, was remember when we were driving home from Due West? Was it Due West last time we were there? Or Charleston? It was Charleston. And I was up and down, just really like emotional about things happening with Grain and just the struggles. Obviously it's exhausting. And there are days where like, it's like riding a high and days where it's like riding a low. And I was at this point where I was feeling really low, and I was just looking at you were driving a long stretch of highway, and I was like, I don't know if I can do this anymore. Like, I'm tired. I want stability. Like I'm trying to work in the car. I got so car sick from working in the car on this drive, trying to justify that we could go take a trip to Charleston. And I got so car sick that you had to literally pull off on the side of the road and let me throw up.
Oh, yeah.
And that's just me trying to get work done while driving. And I finally had to be like, you know what? I'm taking 2 Dramamine and I'm passing out, which is hard for me to do. And so through this trip, I was just on the way back really discouraged, and you were just really lifting me up and making me, you just like put that fire back in me for it. And everything you were talking about, we don't have to go through it verbatim, but just made me feel like there's no one who can speak to grain more than you and me, but like I'm so like in it, right? That I'm too biased almost. And when you speak about it, you've seen it all. Like you've seen every little ounce of it. So I just thought it'd be good to have you on. We can talk about that later. I want to start off though by kind of giving you, I know you don't want to talk about yourself too much. That's just how humble you are. But I want to give you that, like basically a 5 minutes platform to kind of give everyone the rundown of what you do, what you have done, like how you've gotten to this point. I think because obviously I started the podcast with like, you have like 5 different jobs. So yeah, start there.
So after college, I got a finance job and worked there for 2 years, and it was a great career path. I could have climbed the ladder and I could still be there today if I wanted to. But I always knew I just loved tech, and I got this itch to want to code and didn't know what that was about. And so I saved up as much money as I could in those 2 years.
What made you like, how did you decide coding? Were you just like, this is going to be the next thing?
I just saw it as the next future thing to get into, that it was hot at the time, that was, roughly 10 years ago now.
It's crazy.
And so I saved up enough to quit and do like a boot camp, and then gave myself basically like 8 months of runway to go build and learn how to code. And I was like, I'm going to get this job coding. And I spent 20 hours a day, no joke, learning, because when you take that risk of quitting, you're like, I have to make something work. And that lights a fire under you. And I just was learning. And at the same time, I was like, I need to build a project to show people what to do, or like what I'm doing. And
was that like part of the program? Like you had to build something, or you just wanting
to? Yeah, you did at the boot camp, but this was after the boot camp. And I loved software. I loved getting into it. It was problem solving. It was really cool. And at the same time, I was playing music. I love music, that. And so I've always just wanted to merge tech and music. Mm-hmm. And so I built my Strumn idea. Now I built it. It was called something else at the time.
So just for everyone listening, Strumn is the name of the app now, but at the time when you built it, which was 7 years ago.
Yeah, roughly.
Probably about 8 now.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
But
it was called Get a Gig.
Yeah.
And I put that up on the App Store. No marketing. I was having thousands and thousands of artists downloaded across the country. It was wild. But at that same time, I was running out of money. And everything I had saved up for, I was like on the last leg. And a company in Nashville saw it. I got hired here, moved here in a weekend, and started developing apps for music festivals. So I did that for 2 years, which was awesome. It got me to Nashville, got me in the music scene, mm-hmm. got me into tech. And then from there, I got hired on a Bridgestone. So I was there for 4 or 5 years as like more of a corporate job. And then, like you said, in 2020, had a software development firm out west, and I got connected somehow. And I basically gave a portion of the equity to them as almost like an investor, where they develop for me so I can go build the business up. So I rebranded, restructured everything, started from the ground up. After all the years that from what I learned through those years, I built up the app and the software platform exactly how I wanted it. But that also, being in Nashville, got me into songwriting, meeting people, and being able to do that as well. So I was just living, I've been very blessed and been able to live out the dream here by building a startup in music, being in the tech community, but also songwriting during the day or night if I have something I'm working at during the day. And It's stressful, and it is a roller coaster, just like grain, because they're both startups, and you're living out that entrepreneur thing where one day nothing happens, or
like weeks
or months
of nothing happening
happens.
And you're like, oh my gosh.
Yep. And then
or not getting investment for Strumn in particular versus grain, but you're a tech app, like you're a music tech app.
Yep.
So the amount of investment needed is a lot more.
Yep.
And we're entering this place with the economy that like people aren't investing,
yep.
or we're already in that place and we've been there for a little bit. So then that's scary. It's like, well, we need to raise a second round of money.
Yep.
That's not happening. So now what? So I feel like tech specifically is just it's a way larger scale than like grain where we're at now, because millions of dollars are supposed to be invested.
Yeah.
Which is so much money.
Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, and I've raised a pre-seed round to get the platform built up to where it is today. But then you start running out of money because you're building the platform and you're putting the dollars into software development. And then you get to have the product, and then you have no sales team. You have no one to go do outreach, no marketing dollars, no anything. So now you're like, shoot, I need to go.
So you're kind of at like the standstill until you can figure out how to get that more money.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's kind of where we're at though.
Yep. And yeah, so your job shifts every day being a founder. One day I'm working with the devs to develop products. The next day I'm trying to raise money. The next day I'm trying to go to a venue.
You're at all these, he'll go to venues at like, 7 p.m. and like just try to sell. But then at that point, everyone at the venue has been drinking. And so no one wants to talk business. And you're like, well,
yeah,
I'm trying to sell my app. Yep. Like it's a tough, you say this all the time, but it's like, it's just a tough industry because people at venues and venue owners sometimes they're obviously busy during the day. And at night when you can go get their attention, they're in like a different mindset. So it's like, how do you capture their attention? So that's the ongoing struggle.
Oh, totally. And I would love to have a team, but it's hard right now. And when I say hard right now, yes, in this economy and the time, investment shoring up, things like that, VCs or venture capitalists are kind of taking more calculated bets right now. But when I say that, I think it's always hard, but you're always just trying to figure out every day. You're trying to figure out like, what can I do to push the company forward? And it looks different every day, but it's just a roller coaster. Like you said, just like grain. Speaking of roller coasters and startups, I feel like grain has a similar story because you were on your own when you started this. You had nothing. I remember dating, and you were using a camera that I had, and
still using this camera
to film these. And, 3 years in, I mean, you were using this like Dell laptop, and
it wasn't Dell, but it was something, it was old.
Lenovo, it was something like that.
College.
Yeah. And I had gotten you a MacBook Air for Christmas a couple years in.
Which it was just like gold. It's like you had, that to me was gifting me a block of gold.
Yeah.
You know, I was so like, I cannot believe this.
I know. And that's all you needed. You literally.
Also, that was this was after dating 4 months, and it was our first Christmas. And that was the first gift he ever got me. And I was just like,
oh, I thought I was like 3 years in. I don't know.
Dude, no, that was in 2018. We started dating in 2018. Wow, yeah. And it was the first Christmas gift. I was like, holy cow. Because you have to start yourself off.
Yeah. I just always knew that you had that talent in the eye, and you could use the cheapest things, things from Goodwill you were using. You were taking photos of books in a corner, and you were making everything that you had. I mean, the place that you lived at was just run down, and you made it look good. And so we always knew that you could go build something.
But that was never the goal. I don't think.
It wasn't the goal.
you're saying like I started, like you literally saw grain from when I was doing it because I had no other source of income and I kept being asked to do it by people, like to do social media management, content, photos, websites. And remember, I just was like, they keep asking me to do this and I don't do this. I remember having that conversation with you and you were kind of like, you need a job. Like you've been interviewing for 6 months. Nothing's happening. Like, why don't you just do it? You can do it. And you kept saying, you can do it. You can do it. And I was like, no, I don't take photos. Like, I don't do this. And you just were like, yeah, you do. You do. And so I just was like, okay. And so at the time I was freelance. It was just a way to really make money. I needed money.
Yep.
And I was charging nothing. I was charging nothing looking back. And I think those rates are decent for freelancers. I think if you're making that all on your own and you have like, you obviously are limited as a freelancer to your time and your resources. You don't have a copywriter, you don't have a designer, you don't have a photographer, like you are limited. So I think those rates are fine as a freelancer. Those rates are not fine as an agency. Yep. And I've gone from here just myself to an agency. And so justifying my rates to clients who had me from the beginning, like that was tough. But I don't think the goal was ever to build an agency. It just happened.
So as you were scaling up,
but I didn't, that's the point. I didn't mean to scale.
I mean, that is true. Yeah. Like
that wasn't the goal when I started Grain.
Right. You were scaling up in the sense of getting more clients coming to you and you were like, I need help. Like, and then you got caught in this box and maybe not, it's like caught in it, but you were getting more clients reaching out via referral, but you didn't have the help to go fulfill those. Yeah. So you needed money, which
to pay people.
You were then able to, you know, through meeting people in Nashville and things like that, you were able to get you were able to get an investment.
Well, an investor, essentially an investor, approached me to be able to give me the resources to build Grain. Yep. And I think that is a lot of people look at Grain and people who are doing it the way I was doing it in 2021. And they are like, and I've been asked, like, how do you have a team of 6 people at this point? Yep. How do you have an office? How are you affording this? How much are you charging? And I'm like, well, and I'm not saying it out I'm not shouting it out from the rooftops being like, I had an investment. I didn't know how much to charge in the beginning. It wasn't just rolling in money. There was no, like, it was an investment. It was a specific amount of investment capital that helped me do this. And that comes with a lot of responsibility. It does. But that I did not expect to take on.
Right. But with that being injected some money, you're able to then hire people that then hiring people you can charge
gives you more credibility. And it's true. I hired people who were better at their job than I was. So, and that was the goal. Like I hired a designer, Kenzie, who I knew right off the bat. I was like, I want to hire Kenzie. Yep. She's the best designer that I know. And I just love her to death. And so I want to hire Kenzie, and Kenzie came on board. And then we met everyone, kind of piecemealed it together, and everyone had more experience than me in where they're at. That's how we can justify at this point charging more. Yeah. And that's why we have to charge more. Like that's also why.
Yeah, because you have to make payroll.
Yeah, you gotta keep the lights on. And a lot of clients, not a lot of clients, our clients that we have obviously now understand the value, or they wouldn't be paying it. Yeah. But when people approach us and we're like, yeah, our rates are this much money, they're like, wow, that's a lot of money. And I'm like, that's how much it costs for us to do our job right. And we're a small agency. We can't take on 1 million clients. So if it's too much, like we're willing to negotiate to a certain extent, but like we justify these rates because we have hired amazing people at their jobs, which should give our clients and does give our roster of clients like solace.
And you want to take care of them, but the clients are also getting, you know, the experts, like you said, in their specific field. Mm-hmm. And you, again, going back to you having the eye, you were able to also know who to hire and who has the eye. You know, younger cat,
baby cat.
We
love our baby cat.
I just remember you were needing somebody on as a social media coordinator person because you needed to go focus on the business, get more clients, things like that.
We actually, it was content creation.
And so I just remember, we were in Barista Parlor
which is downstairs. It was downstairs at the office we're at now. It's a different coffee shop.
Yep. And she was working there and you just said, that girl has an eye. I know exactly who I need and what I'm looking for. And
well, it's funny because I remember I was obviously our office. If you're not aware, it's an open lofted space. There's no private offices in here. And so when we were doing like team meetings and just like kind of like feedback loops with our team members in January or so, actually just frequently, I would go to Barista Parlor. I would take the meetings separately with the girls in Barista Parlor downstairs. And I had to have some hard conversations with a couple employees that they're no longer here. But I remember it was so hard to learn how to get feedback on things. And the coffee shop was empty, but Baby Cat was the barista. And I was in there and giving this feedback and I was so nervous and just so like not knowing how to handle the conversation. And when it was time for that team member to go upstairs and bring down another team members, because we were just swapping out, she literally looks at me and goes, "You're doing a great job. Like, you seem like a great boss." And I was like, oh my God, that just spoke so much like encouragement into me. And so we developed this kind of conversation. The next time I came in, I saw her on her laptop because the place was empty. And I was like, "What do you do? And what are you working on?" And she was like, "Oh, I'm a digital content creator." And she just was telling me about what she was doing. And I was like, "Do you want to email me? Like, I want to see your portfolio. We're actually hiring. I think we're going to be hiring for this position." She sent along her stuff. I showed it to Peyton. Peyton's like, "Oh my gosh, I've thought about the same thing with this girl." She followed us on Instagram. We could see the content. We're like, she has the eye. She has the eye like I had the eye.
Yep.
And I just knew it. And she has been such an incredible hire. Killer. She edits our podcast. Her husband helps us. Her husband, Micah, did the intro and outro music. Like it's just great. So yeah.
It feels very much like a family, and
which you're not supposed to say. They always say don't say that. I see it all over LinkedIn.
But it's true. I can speak to it because I'm seeing it. And going back to when you met her, and again, you worked with Kinsey in the past. You had worked with Elena in the past.
Yeah, I met every single member of Grain other than Lexi, who but the other girls knew Lexi.
Exactly. So
every single member of Grain I met along that career journey that we talked about in the first episode.
Yep. And what's great about it is you want them to succeed and you give them opportunities. You're not a founder that is, look what I do, look what I do, look what I do. It's you want them to rise up. You want them to go push boundaries, create. You want them to be in your position, and everyone, like you said in your intro, everyone respects each other. I see it every day.
Wait, tell them say that. Like, let's talk about that, because when you come into the office, like Shane's always in here because I'm always asking him, I'm like, the Sonos is broken, the Wi-Fi is out, like something's broken, whatever. Or I need you to bring in this. And he's in here all the time. You're probably, if we're in here every week, you're probably in here every week as well.
Yeah.
And then on weekends, obviously.
Because I can work from here and I'll pop in, or I bring boxes But
that's what I'm saying is like, you see it all.
I see it. And I walk in and I'm like, man, this place there's just a creative energy.
But the team, like, speak to how you say, like, whenever, it's just funny to me because whenever we have you help out, like with the last podcast or the photo shoot stuff, every time you leave, you're like, man, it's just so like vibey and encouraging and creative whenever we're there. And I'm like, that's just our day to day. Like it's not anything different.
I know. I mean, everyone is bringing their expertise. Kinsey's designing something and Lexi's project managing and helping you, with your day to day, and Peyton and Kat are going and filming things or then posting things or coming up with new creative content ideas. You're on the phone talking to new clients or talking to existing clients, and everyone is in flow state, and it's just really cool to see. I mean, it's
hectic for us involved because, like, think about if there's 6 of us in here at any given time, 5 of us in here at any given time, is there 6 or 5 of us?
Well, you have other people. And
Elena
so
counts,
always...
yeah. But Elena counts. She's just in Portland. So I would say there's 5 of us in here at any given time because the 5 of us in Nashville. And we're all just like, kind of like, oh, we have this to do. And like, we're buzzing. Like, it's as though we each have like a million tabs open because we do.
Yep.
And so we feel that kind of chaos being pulled in a million different directions. Peyton always sends the SpongeBob meme of SpongeBob like vacuuming, dusting, and he has like a million different hands, like doing a million different things. And that's how we all feel at all times.
Yep.
We're trying to reel that in and figure that out. A lot of that is us managing our deliverables with clients and boundaries, but it's a process. But that's how we feel at all times. So when you come in and you say like, it's so cool because I see Peyton doing this and Kenzie in the corner doing this, it's a good perspective for me to be like, okay, phew, yeah, you're right. Everything we do is intentional. It is important. But it's hard to see sometimes because when you're in the thick of it and you're being pulled in a million different directions, it's exhausting.
There is a culture here that everyone seems to be putting in for the greater good of going to build things. And your job is to be creative. Mm-hmm. And every single one of you guys love to be creative.
And scrappy. I always like the word scrappy.
Yeah. And so it never seems like a job in the sense of like there are high highs and low lows, which we can talk about next. But at the end of the day, everyone seems very bought in of just let's build this thing together. And that's the startup journey. So speaking of the startup journey and roller coasters and highs and lows, we see it a lot. I mean, do you want to explain like how it's just month to month in the sense of
day to day,
week to week, but month to month? And
I think I was going to say in 24 hours, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's in 30 minutes at a time. Sometimes it's in 10 minutes at a time. My emotions will go from we're on top of the world, we got this, to I don't know if I can do this. Marketing, anyone who's worked in marketing knows that marketing is so volatile. Yep. And it's so ever changing. And it is, there's so much turnover with clients. And we've kept it to where the clients that we have, there isn't as much turnover because they learn to trust us. That's the thing about boutique agencies. And I say this all the time. At a large marketing agency, you're just another number, right? But at a boutique agency, you pay our bills, you pay our team members, and we are really invested in our clients. We think about them, oh my goodness, day and night. We have separate channels on our Instagram at all hours of the day and night. My girls are sending in this group chat between us, like, this would be great for this client. This would be great for this client. Constant research. You don't just turn your brain off because you don't have to, because you don't have the luxury of doing so. Yep.
You almost feel like you are a team member of those clients.
Yeah, you do. And that's how we sell it, but it's true. We sell it like that because it's true. We care so much about our clients, and if we don't take on one, we don't. It's so emotional.
I really think that's the startup journey. It's the roller coaster, and I feel the same way with mine.
Yeah.
Especially in the season of like raising money and things like that. Like I'll have investors come in and we'll get to the finish line, and then maybe the economy, you're dealing with other people with other businesses as well. So everything also depends on how they're doing. And so things fall through, and then you potentially get a big contract, or like you get some leads, or you get some, users, and then that doesn't work for 3 months. And so then you're like, how am I going to sustain this and make this happen? And
so that process, like you're in this process of like courting investors basically, and courting partnerships that take months and months to come to fruition.
Yeah, it takes a lot. And, probably the same of getting a marketing client as well as like getting a customer on a tech platform or getting someone to buy your product. You are fighting time, and you're trying to play this balance of like, maybe you need to feel something. You need some income or revenue or things like that. So you're trying to do that while also trying to not be pushy. Mm-hmm. And it's just a really hard balance of of how do I do that? And I think the ultimate goal is to get to a point where things just come in, because it's, and I think last thing I'll say is like, most everything that you've got that Grain has gotten has been referral based, which is amazing.
It's is, I would say almost all,
probably 95% of your clients have been all referral based.
Yeah.
And, through Instagram or whatnot. And so it's just wild to think. And,
it's kind of that, like, that's like why we're starting this podcast. It's why we're trying to have more of a presence, is because I don't think it comes naturally to me to go out and sell.
Yep.
And to say, here's my business. Isn't it amazing? Like, come, you need us. It's hard. And also, people have been cold called so many different times, especially by marketing agencies, that they don't really trust it. And the way we talked about it, like, obviously ingrained is, we want this podcast because we feel like there's so much to talk about. I really do feel like this will be beneficial. I think having a whole other podcast with you talking about more about your journey about stocks and investing will help people so much too. But I also think that it's our way of contributing and like giving value to people. So like potential clients can come and they can hear us speak. They can hear this podcast and say, no, I can draw my own conclusions on Grain based off of this podcast. And we think that is going to help us continue to attract very aligned clients and just show that, like, we know what we're talking about and we care.
I guess at the end of the day, the startup journey, I think, is, the biggest term that you hear is product market fit, right? So your services or your product or your software or whatever it may be, you need to find that product market fit to keep going. And I think that Grain and you guys have found that. You have clients, you're scaling, you're getting more clients. And I think now your goal is, through day and night, your goal is to scale and keep scaling while getting back balance in your life and in us. And I'm in the same boat.
That luxury that we've talked about, like the new luxury, is just time.
Yeah.
And it's this idea that we're building all this not so that we can be workaholics, right? And we're also, you and I have always talked internally, like, our goal has not become, my goal has not been to just be rich and like raking in the money. I think obviously we want this business to be sustainable and we want it to be successful, but we want that because we want to continue to be employing ourselves and employing the girls that we have, the team that we have.
And future people down the road, and give them opportunities, just like we got opportunities from people. Barn and Holly Sweetman for that.
Love the Sweetmans. So the Sweetmans, Barn actually, like, and Holly both created successful companies together, and we met them just at coffee shops along the way of our own journeys. Now they're some of our best friends, but they also, they have provided opportunities for other people, and we are like a case study, I guess, in that, but they have invested both in Strumn and in Grain. And so we're just forever thankful to them, but also it just goes to show you, like, when we grow up, which they're only a couple years older than us, but they're very wiser. They're wiser, and they've been through a lot to get there though.
Yeah.
And I think it's to show, like, our goal is to be like that to other people. We want to provide opportunities to other people. And the idea that, like, bless people. So we never want to just like hoard onto our money or our wisdom or our resources. We want to be able to give that away to people, just like people have given it away to us, and to create opportunities for people as well in that way. While our goal is not always just to be rich, like, that's never been just something you and I've talked about. And specifically, we've never used the term rich. Like, we do want to build wealth and generational wealth for our family, but while money isn't like necessarily the goal right now, we know that we want to be able to bless other people as well. And it does, having those resources and having those blessings, we want to use that to bless other people. It has been, I think that's the biggest testimony to what we're trying to do here and what people have given us. Think about what happened, even you just dating me for 4 months when you gave me a laptop, like a working laptop and a great camera with a lens. Look what was created from that. That's grain was created from that. And think about if we could give that, if we could extend that, or if you have the means, if you're listening and you have the means to extend that to another creator, what they could build with that. They could build a job for themselves in a tough market with that. So that's kind of our goal into this. Picture.
And as for 2024,
that was a great organic segue. 2023 was, while a great year, and I look back and I'm so grateful, it was one of the hardest years of my entire life. And I've been through a lot. So I think 2023, where I went wrong was just scaling too fast, trying to get there too fast. And I feel like for 2024, I'm just slow and steady wins the race. I want to take some time. Obviously, we need to be sustainable, and we're there, but I want to take some time. I don't want to grow too fast. We did that, and it didn't benefit us in the long run. So taking things a little bit more slowly, giving ourselves a little bit more grace and a little bit more time, and not rushing around so much. Like, even this is our first year of marriage. All of our brain power went into our businesses. I can speak for myself and you, because so much of your brain power went into grain.
I know.
To grain, not even to Strumn. Like, it's all gone to grain. And so we're trying to make that worth it. Right. But I feel like in 2024, we're like newly married. Like we want to start a family, and we're just trying to get to this point where we can have that luxury of time to be able to do that. I feel like throughout the end of the year, and a lot of people don't, I think on maybe on social media and online, it looks like we maybe have all of our crap together, but like, we are struggling. Our relationship to each other has never been better, ever been better. And I think that's really special, because you and I have probably been 3 to 4 different people since we met. And this is like our favorite version of it right now. It's my favorite version of it. But we both, I think what has caused that is, one, our backs were against the wall and we were desperate, and we had to kind of lean on our faith, lean on each other. And not only was that the case, but it was happening to both of us. It wasn't happening to just one of us. So it happening to both of us, we had empathy for each other. I have empathy for you when you're struggling with your startup. You have empathy for me when I'm struggling with mine. And now that we're married, it's so like, what's yours is mine, what's mine is yours anyways. So it's kind of created this relationship of like, we're in this together, and it's never felt better in that sense. So it's hard to even, everything. So it's all worth it, because our relationship now, like, we feel so tight, and I feel so supported. I think just in 2024, to sum it all up, we've learned a lot this year. We both feel like it's like baptism through fire is what I keep saying. We essentially have like gone through business school, like crash course in business school. And we've got so many great people in our corners, and super excited. I'd love to hear what you guys think about having Shane on the podcast on Ingrained, because I think it's interesting. I think you have so much to say. One, you're like Grain's biggest fan. So like, of course I'm going to have you on talk about Grain and Ingrained. But I think too, there are a lot of people listening that we also do have quite a few guys that listen too, who might be able to relate to you. Songwriters, struggling songwriters, starting your own business. I just think you have so much to talk about. I would love to hear if anyone would be interested in having Shane on the podcast to talk about investing in the stock market, because you are a pretty seasoned pro at that. Well, dear, thank you for coming on the Ingrained podcast. For people that want to follow along with anything that Strumm's doing, where can they follow you?
At Strumn, STRUMN, Strumn.com. Have all the information there.
Yeah, awesome. So if they're an artist who's looking to book, go to Strumn.com or go to Instagram and check it out. And then for anyone following along on the Ingrained podcast, make sure you click follow on Spotify so you can subscribe, and it helps our numbers go up. And then also please follow along on our Instagram and our socials, because we're always posting new things, and we love to engage with you guys. So we'll see you next week.
Love it.